Republic of Arsenal, we are back live yet again, and Arsenal against Benfica is the upcoming game this week. Thankfully, we've got that Man City fixture out of the way. We can push it to the back of our minds. So we probably will talk about it because, I think there's a few talking points. There's a few things I think we need to discuss. Look, we look ahead to the second leg. It's Arsenal 1, Benfica 1 coming into the game. Arsenal with a minimal advantage with the away goal. Neutral venue yet again. Unfortunately, we're not coming back to the Emirates Stadium. We're going to play in a stadium that Arsenal fans know quite well, and that's going to be the home of Olympiacos in Athens. Couple of good memories, couple of bad memories. Let's hope it's a good one this time. But look, today we've got Sulz again on the panel. So Sulz, as always, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. Yeah,
look, it's always great to have you. And I've got Joe back. Joe, Benfica fan, was here for the first leg preview, and I got amazing feedback from Joe. I already was gonna have you back anyway, but hearing the feedback, I was like, no, 100%. You're coming back whether you like it or not. So thanks for coming back again.
Thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun last time, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm kind of happy that the first leg went the way it did, so this can be a little bit more civil.
Look, just before we get started, I will point out, I think it was me that made the 1-1 prediction. I think.
Yeah, well, you're not on the good terms there, then, are you?
So going by that, it's me who has the power. I predicted 1-1, so I'm going to give Arsenal a win this time, and you can thank me later when we go through. But look, before we touch on the upcoming game, and before we get into what we saw in the first leg, Sulz, I think it's important that we do talk about the bit of form. And Joe, I am going to get your opinion as well. Benfica had a fixture the other day, so it's definitely important to hear your side of how Benfica got on. But what I'll do is I'll start off with that Man City game. And Sulz, look, I think that game, it was a bit of a catch-22. I think it's fair to say that going into that fixture, City were 24 games unbeaten in all competitions, 17 games unbeaten in the Premier League. Our form up and down at best, to say the least. And then coming off of the Benfica performance, I don't think expectations were too high that we were going to get anything from that game. I think the majority, if they had been offered a 1-0 from Man City, I think a lot of people would have taken it. Given the context of how the game actually played out, was it a bad performance for Arsenal? What went wrong there?
The way I summed it up was on the title of my video: an expected result, disappointing performance, and that's basically how you sum the game up. Because it's all good and well losing to one of the best sides in the Premier League, but it's the manner we lost. They stepped off the gas. Yeah, hi Gary. And we stepped off the gas simply, and that's the disappointing thing. We had chances where we could have done more, because this was the game where the defenders said to the attackers, "You know what? You've been bailing us out all this season. Now it's our turn to step up." And and when you think about Ruben Diaz getting man of the match, that just goes to show how poor we were. That they were managed. They just said, "Oh, we've got our goal. Forget it now. They ain't gonna score." That's the arrogance they showed to an Arsenal football club. Imagine Benfica playing. And like a team, that's an up and comer that I've only just found recent success, comes and scores a goal and says, "Yeah, we scored." I go, "You ain't gonna do shit against us." That's how it felt bad, even being an Arsenal fan that day, because yes, we weren't optimistic to win that game, but fight for the badge at least. Like, the minimum that we fans ask for is fight. And we didn't get anything. Captain and everyone knows I'm a massive backer of Aubameyang. Even Joe would know from the one video, and he disappointed me as well. There was no fight. There was nothing. No one riling the players up. Even Kieran Tierney disappointed me, because he's the one man that I look to after maybe a part. the only man that I can actually sit here and say actually tried was Granit Xhaka, and I know people are not going to agree with me, but he was showing bits of fight and passion. He surprisingly had a few good forward passes as well, trying to break the lines. And then obviously Bukayo Saka again, the one man that we have to look to every single time. And it's coming to the point where it's beyond the manager. I don't care who you bring in. You can bring in, I've said it, Klopp, you can bring in Pep together as two managers, and you still wouldn't get anything more out of these players, because the fact is they're not good enough. Because if they can't show passion, if they can't show fight, when you know you're going through a bit of bad form, and you know that the fans are behind you and the fans want to get behind it. I don't care if we finish 10th, if we fought and we shown passion and we tried, but simply just not being good enough. But City didn't even try to beat us. It was again. I've always said this, Anthony. It's come down to individual errors again. It's not It's not like City came and ripped us a new one where I'd rather have lost 6-0. That would have made me at least think, you know what, they've ripped us. We've got to put our hands up and say, you know what, fair play. You destroyed us. But the fact is, it was sloppy defending from Kieran Tierney to begin with. Yes, he needs to be blamed for that, because you don't let a cross in. You should at least try to stop the cross. And then you've got Bellerin or Holding, whoever you want to put the blame on. Because Bellerin was closer. He should have been at least being a little bit more aggressive. And Holding is always ball watching. So that's why I summed it up as an expected result, because they are City and you have to respect them. They are arguably one of the best squads in the world. Forget about the Premier League. Even if they rotated, they're still better than most teams. Even Liverpool at this point, even if they put their sort of a few fringe players on, they'd still give Liverpool a hard time. So you do have to respect them in that sense. But I just wanted to see a bit more fight, especially given the fact that we've not been, even Benfica was disappointing. Then you've got Villa, which obviously we lost, and then Wolves we lost. I know some are circumstantial. There are things in them games where we can question why they were losses. But give the fans something, because a lot of these players are not in the graces of the fans. Like Granit Xhaka especially. Aubameyang this season is now starting to lose the trust of the fans. How long can you give him? We're coming into March basically now, and he's given us maybe 1-2 performances where we can sit there and actually be like, yep, Saka's the only one who can really put his head held high. Kieran Tierney needs to sort his injury problems out, and then we can really get behind him. And the same with Partey. They've been brilliant all season, but the fact is they've just been injured. And that's all I've got to say. And one thing I will say is, yes, we were going into this game expecting to lose, but that doesn't mean we don't turn up.
Yeah, do you know what? You summed that up brilliantly well. You really, really did. Look, I think you said what we've all been thinking about this team, and as I said, with that performance, yeah, like you're caught in between a rock and a hard place, because yeah, on one hand, you're not expecting a result, but you can live with the result as long as you see a bit of fight and a bit of passion out of the team. And as you said, look, you could lose 6-0 in a game like that, and you put your hands up and say, you know what, you just outclassed us. You're just on a different level. We're just not good enough. We tried. We gave our best. Our best just wasn't good enough. And you'd say, look, that's just the reality of the situation. I think the 1-0 was almost a patronising result in a sense, because on paper, it certainly flattered us. And you'd look at it and go, well, look, you're not expected to win the game. You only lost by the 1 goal. It's a narrow margin. But what I mean by it almost patronises was, you could tell City were in first gear for the whole game. And you could tell City knew that they didn't need to go into second or third gear. City, I think Arsenal showed far too much respect and too much caution to City, which is understandable. But if you see City take the foot off the gas, there was opportunities there. Had we been a bit more brave, we could have got something out of the game. Now, again, we could have fought and we could have got ourselves back on level terms. And City probably would have stepped it up a gear or two, and inevitably probably would have, the class would have shown. They probably would have gone on to win the game had they needed to step up. It's just the simple fact that we didn't give them a reason to have to step up. That was almost a training session for Man City at times.
Yeah, it's like the one thing I didn't notice until I was doing my video was Aubameyang, surprisingly, only had 2 touches in the box in the entire game, 1 in the first half and 1 in the second half. That's our striker, and he's not in the box. Now, there's multiple reasons behind it. You can say his service wasn't there, but then I checked the heat map. I was like, all right, let's look at the heat map because that'll give you a better indication. His positioning is just awful. You're playing as a striker now. You're not at the wing. Stop going to the wing. And be that focal point. That against Leeds, the only reason we battered Leeds was because we had that focal point that we could attack on. But the fact is, on this game, I don't know. This is why I'm starting to question the team now, because you can blame the manager for how long, because under Wenger they failed him, under Emery they failed him, and now under Arteta the same players. Actually, some of the players we trusted are now failing him. So you now have to look at that team, and you have to look at the board, because it's all good and well, but how many managers is it going to take to solve us? It's not about getting a world-class manager in, because if the players don't have the ability to play the game, no manager's going to get anything better out of them. Pep came out after the game and said, give Arteta time, but watch these players. That's Pep Guardiola. Yes, he could be sarcastic. Yes, he could be like, yeah, they're doing shit. Let me just But the reality is he's actually given us genuine advice that people who have opened up their eyes are now seeing that, yes, you've got to look at the players now and see what's going wrong there.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to give a shout out to the guys in the chat. I see Gary is there, so thanks for joining, Gary. And Ashton, I will get around to that question now in a couple of minutes. Ashton, if you just bear with me. Yeah, but just to follow up on that, Sulz, yeah, look, I've been kind of echoing that sentiment for a long time now. People, look, I'm not going to lie. It got to a point with Arsene Wenger where, yeah, I was saying it's gone a bit stale. I would like a change. I would. I have a whole new appreciation now. I'm fully willing to admit I have a whole new appreciation for Arsene Wenger now, because, that whole saying that sometimes you don't miss something until it's gone. Now we don't have our top 4, which we all took for granted. So I completely put my hands up and say at the time, it got a bit stale for me. This just barely getting top 4. Look, that's great, but there does come a point where, you need to go more. You need more than that. Okay, now we got to a stage, we got rid of Arsene Wenger. We brought in Unai Emery. We seen it's come down again another level. We got rid of Unai Emery. Now we've got Arteta. It's starting to come down another level again. There are still a core group of players in this squad that have existed from the Arsene Wenger days. And I have said it, it kind of more so came to light, I think, when you've seen the same players failing Unai Emery, and now the same players are now failing Arteta. And look, I'm not an Arteta in, I'm not Arteta out, but I do share the same belief as you that no matter who you put in that job currently with this squad, they're going to run into the same problems. And I think Unai Emery took the job, and he had the whole, when a new man comes in, everyone's on a bit of a high, things change, the atmosphere around the club, everything changes, and everybody gets on board. We've seen that last for a period. I think it was 22 games. We went unbeaten under Emery, and then eventually the cracks, kind of opened up, and we've seen what happened. Now, the same thing happened with Arteta. New man, new ideas, new methods. Everybody got on board. Everybody believed in him. He took us to an FA Cup final. We won the cup. Look, this season, the same players who eventually let Arsene Wenger down, eventually let Unai Emery down, they are now letting Arteta down. So, yes, the coach, the manager, has a huge part to play. He's the guy who motivates them, trains them, whatever. But as they say, look, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. If you've got the same players in the squad, you're only going to get so much out of them, I think, until they start showing their true colours. Eventually, these players have to be replaced. And I can see what Arteta is trying to do. He has removed a lot of the players we consider deadwood. But people have to understand, just because that group of players is gone doesn't mean that there isn't still a group that remains that needs to go.
No, but the thing is, yes, we've got rid of that core group, but have we replaced them with anything significant? Like, we've got rid of a number 10. Have we brought in a number 10? We can't be relying on Smith Rowe. Yes, he's brilliant and credit to him, but he's still young. Then we've got Saka who's come in, and then we've got Holding who's supposed to come and do the Socrates job. And thank you for that. And we're not replacing the players, and that's part of the problem as well. We need to now look forward to getting the players in, which is what I was hoping we'd do in the summer. But with the news that's come out, obviously I don't want to get too much into everything because we'll be here all day otherwise. But yeah, we just got to look forward as a club. We need to, obviously Benfica is going to be a big one. And that's all I've got to say. I think we need to understand that the Wenger and Emery overachieved with what they had, and Arteta's come in and shown us the true quality of this club. We are a top 10 squad. Let's not put it any other way. And it's when managers overachieve, we think that's where we should be. We should be top 4. Emery did it. Wenger did it. But guess what? Arteta, when people say about the new manager bounce, he never really got it because he came in and then the whole COVID situation started developing and we didn't know whether we were playing games or whether we weren't. And then we're going into games a bit last minute, as in the Premier League were like, all right, let's go for it. Even when they cancelled, when they stopped the league, because obviously eventually they continued it. But when they put a stop to the league, it wasn't up until the night before we played City that they actually cancelled the league. And then we found out they were just postponing it. So preparations are difficult when you don't actually know what's going to happen. And then not knowing whether you are going to play the team you're scheduled to play or whether that's going to be rescheduled and you're going to play a different team. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. Just looking at a comment there from Gary. He's having a go at me over yesterday. I was on a panel and I was bigging up Granit Xhaka as a potential captain. Now, I did say Kieran Tierney is my choice. I just said I would have Granit Xhaka.
I agree. I'm not going to lie. I agree with Xhaka.
Yeah, but look, that's probably a conversation we have later. But I want to bring Joe into the conversation now. So, Joe, look, we've vented some of our frustrations with Arsenal's recent performance against Man City. Benfica had a pretty poor performance themselves. Now, I'm going to try to pronounce this name. It was SC, is it Firenze?
Firenze, but yeah, Firenze.
Yeah, so a 0-0 draw. They were bottom of the table, and this point has now taken them up to 15th, but they're still joint 17th, you could say, out of 18 teams.
Wow.
A 0-0 draw, and they had actually a goal disallowed through VAR for offside. So look, talk us through that. Were players rested? Was this a full strength Benfica side?
Yeah, so I mean, a game like this, I know it's always tough with resting the rotation that squads see. There was some rotation that I expected. So Julian Weigl, which for me, I know we'll get into it a little later on, but he was probably Benfica's best player in the Arsenal match, and he's pivotal to how the team plays. He was suspended due to a 5th yellow, so he wasn't able to play, but we expected that. Verissimo also, our Brazilian center back who made his debut against you guys, he was out as well, but that was expected. He came with a lot of matches in his legs from Brazil when he came over to Benfica, so. Yeah. Things like that you expected to see. But really nothing kind of gave you that thought in the back of your head that, we might not win this one today. It should have been a win. Just the fact that this team, Firenze, their last clean sheet actually came 1 full calendar year ago from Sunday. So it was 365 days since their last clean sheet. Mind you, last season they were in the 2nd division. So that's not good. And in terms of recent form, this is our 3rd straight draw. We have only 3 wins in our last 10 matches, and one of those came against another 2nd division side in the cup. And we've just been, I don't know what's been happening to us. And it's really the offense, because the defense was a major problem at the beginning of the season, and we've seemed to have solved that. Even before we brought in Verissimo, and starting 3 at the back is a little different. But for the most part, it seems like we figured it out there. But offensively, man, it's terrible. We spent all this money, like I was telling you before, 105 million euros in the summer transfer window, and you're not seeing it.
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
Yeah, look, it sounds very similar to the Arsenal situation, where for a long time we weren't scoring, we weren't creating. I remember early in the season there was a stat where I think we were ranked something like 95th out of all the English clubs, and that was going down the divisions. You know what I mean? There's 20 sides in the Premier League. We were being ranked 95th from all the divisions in English football, which was crazy. But yeah, look, just kind of, I guess, to touch on the whole manager situation as well. Like, I want to get your opinion on this one, Joe, because obviously a lot of people are saying this could be last chance saloon for Arteta and Sulz. I'm going to get your shout on that as well. But for Benfica's manager JJ, is this make or break now? Because Benfica, fourth in the table, obviously Sporting are running away with the league, like Man City in our league. If they don't do well in the Europa League, do you think will they get a Champions League finish, or is this going to be it for them?
So it's tough, just because JJ and the president have a very close connection. That's the whole reason that he came to the club, and there's been a lot of talk in the media the last several days, just because, of course, as you mentioned, we're now sitting 15 points behind, or 16 points rather, behind Sporting, which is terrible, especially as they're your main rival in Lisbon. And we're sitting in fourth, which, as if the season ended today, we'd be ending up in the Conference League. No Europa League, no Champions League, not even the qualifier. So, and that would be disastrous. We'd be forced to sell, I think, upwards of 150 million euros worth of players. So pretty much all the stars you're seeing from the squad today we'd be forced to sell them. So it's frustrating to say the least. But the rumors are saying that JJ will stay until the end of the season, unless he wants to leave. And he feels that, his promise of a super team that the president had given him before the season started hasn't been kept. On the flip side, the president thinks that COVID is an excuse for missing the Champions League, or, dropping this far on the table, especially when you had a match like Sundays that had to be a win. Benfica still haven't won a match in 2021 away in the league. And that's just unacceptable. We're nearing the end of February, and you can't have that. So what it's looking like is there's a lot of pressure to force out the president. And there's actually a television conference scheduled for Sunday from the president. So a lot will depend on what happens on Thursday. A win, and unfortunately, on the bright side, we'll still be in the Europa League, which I would love to see. I do want to win, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He'll be able to kind of smooth over the last 18 months of terrible football that we've been witnessing. With just, give it time. Things are happening. Look, we've had some rough patches, but we're going to turn it around. But so at the same time, I do feel a little betrayed, because the last two managers have been sacked when they were down, 7 and 6 points in the league. And right now, JJ's sitting, combine those two, and he's still in, and there's no pressure on him to leave whatsoever. So I don't think it will be his last match on Thursday. And he does feel that he should at least finish the season. But the managers were linked with, it's tough not to, get involved with that type of stuff. They're talking about Roma's Paulo Fonseca, who used to coach Braga. He's at Roma now and doing pretty well. And then you have like Sarri, they're talking about coming to Benfica, because he wants to get back into the managerial scene, and we're one of the possible landing spots. But we'll see what happens with the managerial situation. Personally, given the history of our past managers, I don't think we should have sacked our last manager when we did. And JJ's unwillingness to play academy players is something that I really think a side that's falling like we are needs. I mean, just look at your own side. Imagine not playing Smith Rowe. I'm not sure what the story in the table would be if that was the case. So his unwillingness to do that, kind of puts me in a difficult spot. But it's tough. I think managers in general nowadays get sacked too quick. They're all emotional decisions. I'm glad they gave Arteta time, because look what he's been able to do. I was always Arteta in, even if that meant helping Wolves go up in the table.
No, it's your point about we're not giving managers enough time. I absolutely applaud that.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that's the case with most managers. But JJ's just general disposition. He still really hasn't apologized for any of the results. And yeah, as Gary's saying there, it is eerily similar to Arsenal. There are a lot of similarities between the two of us, going back to just our fan bases in general, but then also our current form. And so it's something that we'll have to wait and see. I do wish we had Arteta, just because he plays the youth. And I really think Benfica, we've sold over $1 billion euros worth of players over the last 10 years or so. that's the type of talent you have coming out.
Yeah.
And it's not like all of a sudden the talent's not there. It's just the fact that the talent's not being managed the way that it should be. So unfortunately, that's our situation. And I think JJ was stuck around, but also he's a big game manager.
Mm-hmm.
So every single one of these disappointing draws that we've had in the league, he's followed up with it's still a draw, but a great performance against Porto. He had a great performance against you guys in the first leg. So we'll have to wait and see what he's able to do. He does have the experience in these big competitions, and I'd love to see what he's able to do if we're able to come out on top on Thursday.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, Gary said about the situation seems eerily similar to Arsenal, and that's actually something that I did say to you. You know, from hearing you speak in the first preview, I was saying this almost sounds like we're supporting the same club here. Like even the way you were saying we were expecting to play and set up, and all the situation going on, I was saying this is. Basically, Benfica are the Arsenal now of the Portuguese league, and we're the Benfica of the Premier League. It's crazy, the similarities. And like that, yeah, you know what? I think something that has frustrated fans with Arteta is the fact that he has been a bit unwilling to use the youth players up until kind of recently enough. And now he is giving youth an opportunity to an extent. You know, there's a debate we'll probably have a little bit later on about Martinelli and the likes. You know, Smith Rowe, Bukayo Saka, yeah, he has them in the team. He's given them a chance. It wasn't always that simple for Smith Rowe. And a lot of people are saying he got a little bit lucky, that his hand was a little bit forced and maybe he had no choice but to give him a shot. And it's worked absolute wonders. And I think Smith Rowe has you know, given Arteta one of those headaches now where he's kind of saying, okay, maybe I don't really want to go down the route of playing this guy, but he's made himself, you know, so important to the team that, you know, whether Arteta likes it or not, I don't think he can take Smith Rowe out. You know, Arteta's kind of funny like that at the moment, and I don't know whether it's just I keep going back to him being inexperienced and maybe a little bit naive. You know, maybe he thinks as an inexperienced coach, he's thinking, well, you know, I can rely on the, you know, dependable players being my experienced guys. Maybe he doesn't quite have the trust yet in the youth. Now, I think he's learning, you know, the youth can be every bit as good and trustworthy. And like that, you look at guys like Bukayo Saka and guys like Smith Rowe, they've been our best performers this season. It's the experienced guys that you would depend on, you know, Aubameyang and the likes. They're the guys who are letting you down. Inevitably, they're the guys that are going to cost Arteta his job should it come to it, you know. So he needs to start giving these guys a chance. And we definitely will talk about Martinelli, Sulz. But like that, you know, we've heard from Joe about the situation regarding the Benfica coach. Arteta, I know you're very much, you know, give him a chance on that. And a lot of people are saying, and again, a lot of people are quite reactionary. And I understand, look, it's a results-driven business. If we get knocked out of the Europa League, you know, it's not looking particularly good for a sixth place finish. Is that, you know, end of days for Arteta at Arsenal?
For me and the board, no, because the board have already come out and said that he will be in charge of next season and he will be given the chance and proper backing, apparently. So, obviously, we've seen the news come out, obviously, with Kroenke losing nearly $1.4 billion of his fortune due to like the pandemic and COVID and everything, and which isn't looking good. But one thing that I do want to reiterate to people is that this is a project. We were impatient when it came to Emery, and we probably didn't give him enough time to kind of put his stamp on the team. But let's not keep making the same mistakes. Sometimes, you know, you've got to look at the problem for what it is. Yeah. The board are not backing the players. We're not getting enough players in. When you've got Chelsea who brought in, what was it, like 6 players this summer, worth a lot of money, with a lot of potential, with a lot of backing, and they were probably with some of the most hyped players in world football, in likes of Werner, Havertz, Ziyech, and you know, and then bringing in the experience of like a Thiago Silva as well. That's what we need to be doing at Arsenal Football Club. This problem has been now for 17 years. It's come from the Wenger, and now when we look at it, What Arteta's doing is everything that's not on the pitch at the moment, as in he's sorting the corporate process out, he's sorting the backroom staff out, he's sorted the deadwood and at the beginning he said that these snitches are going to get the highest of consequences, and now it seems, I don't know how true it is or whether people have just kind of backed off because, oh yeah, well, just let them get the heat and then later on they'll come back to being the ones who spread all these rumors. We don't know. But what I've always said to people is that this team is 3-4 years behind their competition. And now the blame isn't on a manager. Any manager can come in and they're set to fail because we're not bringing in enough players to really back him. Yes, when Joe says using the youth, it's a combination of the two. You need to have youth in there, which we've now come to realize who those youth players are going to be going into the future, or the immediate future, should I say, in the likes of potentially Balogun, depending on if we can get him sorted. Martinelli, with the Martinelli situation, I'm going to touch on as well. I'll touch on later because you said you were going to talk about the Smith Rowe one. I will touch on. Yes. Arteta got asked about Smith Rowe earlier on in the season, and he said that the problem with Smith Rowe is he's picking up little injuries, and that's the reason why I can't put him into the first team, and I'm giving him Europa League runouts just to see and test his fitness at a higher level. And when he brought him into Chelsea, was reportedly the time span he was giving anyway. He was giving him the winter to come into the team and actually potentially integrate him. Yes, his hand was forced. I'm not going to be delusional and say his hand wasn't forced because you didn't have the likes of Willian. Aubameyang was like in and out at that point. We did have Lacazette. Obviously, Gabriel was out with COVID with Willian. So yeah, to a degree, his hand was forced, but at least he then realised, okay, let me continue playing him and actually developing him. But one thing that we've seen immediately with Smith Rowe is how his lack of fitness, and that's not a hit on him, but just because this is his first big season where he's playing for a first team. The thing that people forget is Saka was also in and out last season of the team, especially going into the latter stages of the season. Saka actually didn't feature for most of it, because he was young and he needed to kind of sporadically use him just so that he can build that sort of fitness and get used to, because under 23 is one level of football where you're developing your foundations and you're playing a little bit less of the intensity of football. When you come into the first team, you're coming against people who are it's a Premier League. You're coming across world-class players. You're coming across, don't forget, the 1% of the population who actually made it, right? That is huge. Like, you're coming across the best of the best. You are going to get kicked. You are going to get physically, because they're men. They're like 28-year-old men playing like 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And it's different. Like, even when I used to play football and you used to play against, 2 years above you, the physicality was massive. Like, you were a little bit scared because, let's be honest, they were a lot more developed as players. So you do have to give Arteta the chance, because when people say they don't understand the process, I'll explain the process to people. What he wants to do is implement this sort of La Masia, Cruyff football, the complete football that the Netherlands brought in and Cruyff brought into Barcelona, the sort of attacking wing-backs who have the ability to go forward and back, and he's got that in Tierney, but unfortunately Tierney's not been able to stay fit enough for him to implement that fully. He wants us to have inside forwards who are coming in. So if the ball's on the left-hand side, you've got your right-hand side coming into the box for more support into the box. The problem that you have is we don't have a foundation to build on. We don't have two, solid midfielders. When Partey and Xhaka are together, we're starting to see more of that play to come to life, and that sort of tactics come to life. But the problem is we've got too many gaps to fill. And I was speaking to someone, and I do genuinely believe we're about 3 or 4 signings away from kind of competing in the league again. And then going into the next window and depthening that squad. Sort of what Liverpool did. Liverpool brought in the likes of Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah, and Mane to build that sort of first-team structure and then built behind it to bring that depth in. Unfortunately, they just had way too many injuries this season, to the point where even City would suffer if they had that many injuries. No squad is ready for that. But that's obviously off topic. And that's why I do think if we want to see Arsenal compete, whoever you want to back them, because you're never gonna be able to complete a process unless you bring in a Roman Abramovich. If you want to have an 18-month manager, go support Chelsea, because I don't want that to be Arsenal, and I'm sure Joe will come here and say he doesn't want that to be Benfica either, because that's not what we are. We're not. Even look at United, when they stuck to a manager and they said to Ollie, no, we're going to ride or die with you regardless of these rough patches. Look at them now. They've got a team that's now assembling the old United. That's assembling the mentality. And Arteta understands that mentality because he's played for us. Yes, he's not a legend or an icon for us, but because he's played with us and he's played at an era where we had players that we were proud to call Arsenal players. You had the likes of Fabregas at the time. You had like so many different players like Sanchez and even Ozil. And that's what we need to do. We do need to be a little bit patient, but I do think the board, seriously, if it's not Arteta, please come out and tell us we don't want to back Arteta and we want to sit there and we want to back this manager instead, because whoever comes in, firstly, needs the backing of the fans. And I think people are being a little bit too emotionally invested. If you take that emotions and take it away and just focus on, even if you look at the bad and if you tactically try to start breaking that team down, you'll see where he wants to go. Even against City, I don't think the players are intelligent enough to implement the system he wanted to play, because there were times where players were losing the ball and I was sat there like, what the hell are you doing? Like, how can you not make that pass? You're making a pass right in front of you, no one's there, and you're still failing. Then you got Bellerin who's trying to run forward and puts it out for a throwing. Like, it's just bizarre things where I sit there and I'm like, no manager in the world is training them to do that. I'm sure Arteta's not like, Bellerin, please mess up, because that's what I want you to do. Holding, please don't get tied to the player. Because come on, let's be real, like no coach is doing that. So sometimes you do then have to sit there and think, are the players intelligent enough? And my answer is no, because half of the players we're sat here talking about and featuring in this 11, we wanted gone in the summer. But yet these same players miraculously are supposed to become world-class world beaters and be in the top 4 of a Premier League.
Sulz, on fire today. On fire. Woo. And we have to take a minute just to cool down there. You know what? You know what? This is why I love you, man. This is why you just, you blow my mind with some of this stuff. But yeah, no, look, I agree so much with a lot of the stuff, everything you're saying. I completely on board. I completely get your thought process there. But look, like you were saying, look, the problems, they have to go beyond what we see on the pitch on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Thursday night. It goes beyond that. A manager's job is not as simple as show up. You pick your 11, you make your subs, this guy on, this guy off, and that's it. It's not that simple. As you said, there's no way Arteta is telling these guys, don't pick up a man. Like you look at Mahrez, had Tierney's head spinning the other day, got down the line, swung the ball in. It was just a moment of madness. Bellerin holding, there was no communication. They're both ball watching instead of man watching. I've absolutely no doubt that was not the instruction. The instruction was not, don't pick up this guy. Okay, he's 5'7", he's no threat. Like that can't be the instruction. It comes down to football IQ.
I mean, hypothetically, even if we said that is the instruction, that's just for some bizarre reason, let's think that is the. Come on, you're a defender that's been through the youth academy of some of the best academies in the world. If you've been through at least 3-4 years in terms of holding, and Bellerin's been at Barcelona's academy. Let's not forget these guys have not been through some muggy, like a Vardy, for example. If Vardy made those mistakes, you can understand, because he came from low league football into the Premier League and into stardom very, very quickly. These guys have trained amongst the best coaches in the youth academies. And you're telling me that you've got no ounce of footballing brain. If your coach is telling you to lay off a player, that you're not thinking, actually, I've been taught to be tight to a player and actually be a little bit aggressive. There was no attempt to defend. That's my issue. Yeah.
No, you're dead right. This team, it leaves you scratching your head at the best of times. Look, I've absolutely no doubt on the training ground. Like we've heard Pep singing the praises of Arteta, and a lot of people associated with Man City were actually come out and saying that Arteta is the man pulling the strings. On the training ground, Arteta is the man, has the relationship with the players. He's the organizer. He's almost the mentor, where Guardiola is the face. And You know,
Yeah,
he's the
because Sterling, Sane, them two especially have said, because Pep actually came out and said in one of his interviews that what Arteta came in and done was Sterling's starting position was kind of so he's turned it from being back to just side on, so that when he touches the ball, he can actually push it forward and actually develop into that play. And that's the tweak Arteta. Apparently, Pep said he's come in and he's done that tweak to him, and it's just his starting position. Now look at him. So you can see Arteta, and even with Sane became an inverted winger under Pep Guardiola. And Arteta developed that style, and that's what he's doing with the Pepe and Saka when he's switched them to become inverted wingers instead of your natural sort of traditional wingers where you're on your strong foot and you can cut in. And you're starting to see those little things coming. But the thing is, this sort of stuff takes time, especially with the Saka and Pepe. They're young in their careers. I know Pepe is 24 and it's a little bit coming to his peak, but he's still a young player developing.
Yes.
And the more time you've given these guys, the more Pepe is now starting to make people eat their words, because think about what he's done recently. He's been phenomenal. And then Saka, obviously, he's one of the best youngsters like in the world, arguably. Like there's some players above and beyond, but he's in the top 5 for me.
Yeah, well, look, it does come to a point where, like you said, you can coach the guys to the best of your ability. You can give them everything. You can have any coach in the world, giving instructions to guys like, Granit Xhaka gets a lot of stick. You put any attacking coach, the best attacking coach you can find, like you try and make Granit Xhaka, a world-class box-to-box midfielder. It's just not going to happen. Guys have limits, and unfortunately, we have too many guys at our club that I think have reached their limit, and they cannot go beyond. Now it's time like that, like Joe, you were saying, with the youth players in Benfica are a great example of it. You bring these guys up, you see the talent, and you embrace it. You train these guys up. You have to realise, when you get to a point with certain players, that there can be no more improvement. We've seen Arsene Wenger got what he could out of guys like that. We've seen Emery could only get so much. Now we're seeing Arteta can only get so much. Sometimes you can only bleed a player dry, for so long, and then it gets to a point where you say, look, you've done the job that I needed you to do. Now, thanks very much. It's time for me to bring in someone else that can do the next job for what I want to do. But look, we'll move into now. We'll have a bit of a chat about what actually happened in the first leg. Joe, look, I'm going to start with you. Like, coming into that game, expectations versus reality. How were you feeling? Like, how from your perspective, from a Benfica perspective, was that a good result? Was it a good performance? And, what do you see from that first game? Did you see anything that would, give you any fear of Arsenal in the second leg?
So, yeah, in terms of expectations, I had predicted a 2-2 draw. So just a little bit off. And I am happy with the result, just given what kind of, what happened during the match. So, in the first half, we had really 2 main chances. One, of course, I don't need to bring it up. It's in the back of everyone's minds right now. The Aubameyang miss. I mean, that's a given goal right there. And really, for that reason alone, I feel that we are lucky to come out with the draw. But then towards the end, you had the gift from Granit Xhaka to David Luiz, who was just sitting back looking at the ball, and Grimaldo came right in. And, again, Sulz, I mean, this kind of, again, goes into one of the reasons why I don't love Grimaldo, is that he was right in front of the net and decides to cross. I mean, that's a golden opportunity, and I think he showed some displeasure with himself afterwards. But so for the first half, I mean, the backline was great. Our backline was great. That was something that, in terms of my expectations for the match, I didn't really have any, because it was the first time that these three had played together. Verissimo getting his debut. It was the first time we'd really played in this true 3-4-3 formation under JJ. And what it came down to was the fact that we were able to draw Arsenal offside 7 times in the first half. And I think that really set the tone there, because nothing could have really been done. I mean, there was really no exciting football played in the first half, aside from that one Bellerin crossover to Aubameyang that he put right past the net. But it was just your classic Arsenal controlling the tempo, but there were really no dangerous passes. You saw Odegaard try to create, but when he would create, the resulting pass would be offside. And He was someone that really scared me coming in, and I thought he had a great match. Every bit of danger that Arsenal created, I think, started with him, except for maybe 1 or 2 balls from Gabriel, which were great, those balls over the top. But for the first half, I was ecstatic to come out scoreless. Now for the second half, from a Benfica perspective, starting Pizzi was something that, I knew JJ had to do. He's the competition leading scorer. He is actually clear now for the competition's leading scorer with 7 goals after the penalty. But the whole reason that penalty was even created was the work of Diogo Gonçalves, our right back, who typically doesn't start, our right wing back in this case. Rafa, who JJ brought on to open up the match in the second half, which certainly happened. And then Pizzi, who, as much as the guy frustrates me, he does have flashes here and there where it's like, oh, great. But the play that led to the penalty started with a Pizzi back heel that went horribly wrong. And then, Smith Rowe collected the ball, but Gonçalves was able to kind of kick it out under him and get it to Pizzi, who won the corner. And then from the corner, Pizzi, Rafa, and Gonçalves combined for that clever work, and it led to the handball and the goal. So, I mean, that was what I was kind of looking for in the whole first half. And I'll let you guys kind of touch on it there. But afterwards, what I saw from Benfica, it was frustrating. Given the situation of having to hold Arsenal to as few goals as possible with the away goal advantage that they had coming in.
Yeah,
that was really my main concern. If we could keep this match to only conceding once or no goals, which would have been great, I'd be happy. Especially considering we started a keeper who he's played nine times all season versus Vlaco Dimas, who's been our starter for the last 3 years, really. And there's some controversy around that, but I thought he looked great. He had a couple of times where he came out of the box, which he's great at doing, and he saved us some headaches there. But what about you guys? What did you have to?
Yeah, look, Joe, great analysis. But look, you've made me a little bit sad. I'm not going to lie, because if there was anything I was taking from that performance, I'll be honest, I thought Arsenal, slightly edged it. I thought we looked a slight better team, and I thought to myself, well, look, Kieran Tierney is on the way back. He may start now in the next game. I was thinking maybe we've Thomas Partey to come back. We don't know. So missing a couple of key players. You've just mentioned you played a goalkeeper, only played 9 times. You played a defender who was making his debut. So basically what you're telling me is Benfica also have better players to come back. So, there's that little bit of hope that I had maybe kind of gone out the window there. But Sulz, look, we have to do it. We have to talk Aubameyang. We have to talk that miss. And look, Aubameyang off the back of a hat-trick against Leeds, then to basically missing a hat-trick of chances against Benfica. What is going on with this guy?
Your guess is as good as mine, really. I don't know, because, I mean, obviously he did come out and say that he was having personal issues with his mum being ill. But like I said in the first bit, if you're not mentally or physically ready, don't play. Be man enough to admit that, maybe I am going through a few things, and for the betterment of the team, I'm going to step back on this one. And I think a lot of people would respect that, because if he now comes out again and says, yeah, my mum's ill, that's why I've had a bit of bad form, it's gonna come to the point of, when Ozil and his back problems, it's going to become a them situation. And I know it sounds mean to say that, and I know, you're going to be there for your mum regardless of, like, family always comes first, but you've got to be mad enough, especially in the game of football, where you're like, no, I'm not ready to play. I'm mentally, my mind isn't on it. Maybe at Leeds he was ready, but then something may have developed going into Thursday. Potentially, we don't know. But that's probably my best guess. I think that's the other frustrating thing, because I think we could have been, and I've said it before, we could have genuinely been out of the game if Aubameyang even took one of those chances, because we would have been the first goal scorers. And the one thing that I do want to credit Arsenal is we've been able to hold games better. We've been defensively managing games a lot better than we have in previous years. If this was Arsenal of, let's say, a couple of years ago, Benfica would have probably destroyed us, because they would have ripped us open a lot more easy, because there were moments in that game, I'm not sure who played the through ball, but it went right through the middle of our midfield. And and it was one of your strikers who went and missed it. But I can't remember the name, but I can remember the movement. I can remember all of that, but I just don't know who was involved. I forgot who, which Benfica players. This was near the end. Yeah.
Nunes, maybe.
Was it Nunes? I think obviously Joe will know.
I believe it was. I'm trying to think exactly which ball. The ball that struck out for me was when Gabriel cut through our midfield. But
the one that I seen was right in the middle, and I think it was Nunes, Darwin Nunes, is it? Who scuffed it, like completely skied it. But
oh yeah, that was Darwin on that one. I'm remembering.
Yeah. And so I mean, they can do that. That's the problem. That we have. They can, at a moment's notice, rip our defence. And the other thing is Smith Rowe, and I think that mistake wouldn't have happened if he was rested, personally. I think that was just a little bit of fatigue, and I think it was a little bit of overworked, and he was a bit, at that stage of the game especially, he just didn't look, and I was saying it before, he needs to come off, and Gary in the chat knows, because I think we did a watch-along. I don't know whether he was, I think he came in the second half of that watch-along, and he'll probably echo a lot of what I'm saying now. And the problem that we had was, if you want to know what Arsenal have been this season, go watch that first leg, because that's the story of Arsenal. Chances are created, chances aren't taken. Defenses, those errors like a handball and giving away a penalty at that stage of the game isn't good. But then one moment of direct play, like literal full-on attack mode, and we scored. So that goes to show, if we are really positive and we think positively, we can actually rip this team. And guess what? We took the entire team out of the game. It was Cedric took the keeper out, and it was an open goal for whoever wanted to put that away. And that's what we can do. And that's what my frustration comes to. When I see that goal, I was like, where was this? And if Aubameyang puts even one of his 3 chances in the first half away, we're talking a different game today. I'm not saying Benfica had no chance to come back in, because they still had Everton. They still had Rafa to come on. And I rate Everton a lot. And when he came on, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a scary game now, because he is quite frankly a quality player who can change the game. And he did. He quite frankly, he was direct in his approach. And he asked a lot of questions. I mean, Bellerin isn't the greatest anyway to begin with. So you can ask any question of him, really, and get any answer you want. A lot of people are making a joke, like even us on the panel could probably spin Bellerin a few times. So, but I think what Arteta really needs to do is play it. I think the way we approached it is we need to be solid at the back, and we need to feel the game out rather than go gun-ho, because we are at a disadvantage. Being 1-1 is not a good result. It doesn't give us any advantage, in my personal opinion. I'm not confident with the result, but I am confident that Arsenal will beat Benfica, of course, being an Arsenal fan. That's not me writing Benfica off, by the way. I've got a lot of respect for Benfica, and I do think they can win. But I think being a fan, of course, you're never going to say you're going to lose a game. But I do believe, the thing is, right, if they're not fired up for this game, they've lost all my respect. That's going to take a lot to gain back, because I don't mind getting knocked out if we fought and we did our absolute everything, and no silly things, man. If we're switched on, we can win that game, because and the one thing that I do want to say about Benfica was they had a high line. I was so surprised to see such a high line being played against Arsenal, because even Joe said it, like the pace that Arsenal possess is frightening. It'll frighten any team in Europe. Like when you've got Saka coming at you, when you've got Aubameyang if he fully runs, and then you've got, let's say, Pepe is playing, or in this case we had Odegaard, which is probably the slowest of the 3. But when you've got, like, if say for example we had a Martinelli or a Pepe in there, you'd be frightened. You would not want to be playing that high line, because they'll get destroyed, and it got shown as well. And I think when you go into the second half, JJ did rectify that a little bit, because they did play a little bit deeper, and they started to kind of not so deep to the point they were parking the bus, but it was kind of like a mid-high. So they weren't at the halfway line, but they were kind of like just on the edge of their box, and that's kind of where they held their line, which obviously made it a lot harder for us in the second half. Hence why we thought, we've got a little bit of a better game, but that's more because they kind of took a little bit of a step back rather than being on the front foot. Being the home side, you kind of have to be on the front foot. But that's what a great manager is. Someone that can understand those differences of just taking that step back or step forward in a game, and that's what he did perfectly well. And when we go into this game, I think looking at it, Martinelli would be an absolute delight, because I think the way how direct Martinelli is, I'd feel sorry for Benfica, no disrespect, but I think how direct he is, he'd ask so many questions of especially an aging team, and that would also, because Aubameyang's not been on the form of his life, he's one of those players who's already out of the game before you go into it, and that's not me disrespecting him. That's just me putting it how it is. And when you've got, then if you've got even a Pepe, for example, then even though all your focus is on Saka, let's say, you've got a Pepe who can break through and do his little bit of magic. Then you've got a couple of questions that the defense have to ask. It's like when I always talk about attacking partnerships, because if one's not having a good game, you want the other two to have a good game, or the other three to have a good game, depending on if you're going to include your number 10 into that. And unfortunately, we had Saka and Odegaard, but Odegaard was a lot easier to exclude from the game because he was starting everything rather than the one who's going to go on do something at the end. And that's why that number 10 is always going to be one that you don't really include when you're talking about who's going to change the game, even though they can make those passes. But we didn't have enough players who were asking questions of that Benfica backline, especially with the way they approached the game. I was surprised that Aubameyang didn't ask more questions. And I was surprised. That's where Partey would have really been magical. But there are a few reports. Apparently, he's training with the squad, and there's signs. But I don't think he's back. I wouldn't put my money on him being back. But there's a few murmurs going around. I don't know how true they are. But going into this, I think this is going to be an incredible match either way. I think it's going to be one of those where, up until the 90 minutes, you can't write anything off unless some miraculously one of us goes and scores like 4 goals out of nowhere and, puts in this masterclass of an attacking performance that we've not seen all season. It's going to be one of those that goes to the end. And I wouldn't be surprised if this goes into penalties or like extra time or whatever the European rulings are for.
Yeah.
No, I have to agree there. And to me, one thing for this Benfica side is just that, in years past, it was this mentality of every game's a final, be it in the league or in Europe. And you kind of saw some of that mentality, move away from the club, unfortunately. But if they treat this as the old Benfica, that's, this is a final, this is the match, I don't care about any other matches that are coming up. Really looking at our upcoming matches, there is no big match after this one. So we play Porto match week 31. We're on match week 21 right now. So, this is it. This is our all-in. This is our final match. And if JJ treats it like that and is able to do what he has been able to do in years past, he was down 1-0 in the 88th minute to River Plate in the Libertadores final with Flamengo, and they won that match in regular time. So it's something that there is a little bit of luck to situations like that, but also if he instills this mentality into the team of, listen, hey, I'm out if we lose this game. You're probably all out if we lose this game. Like, what's at stake. This is Europe. This is all we need to do is get that one goal. And I think if Benfica is able to get that one goal, be it from the penalty spot or not, because we have 4 penalties in the Europa League so far. Pizzi's top scorer with 7 goals. Yep. If we get a penalty, I have confidence. And if it goes to penalties at the end of the match, even more so. But what it really comes down to is, will Benfica be able to make the most of the few chances they get? Because unfortunately, with the side we have right now, Luka Waldschmidt started last game. He didn't look good at that match. He didn't look good in the league in the weekend match either. So really, it'll be interesting to see what 11 we put out. Aside from, those defensive players that I feel like we'll say. Rafa didn't start last game. I do think he gets the nod tomorrow. But if we're able to create chances, Darwin Nunez and Haris Seferovic I can't even count how many chances they've missed so far this season. So if they're able to make the most of those chances, then I have confidence. That's a huge caveat, that being said. But it's all about, I think, who gets the first goal.
Joe, can I just say Arteta came out after the City game and said we're treating this like a final, as if if all life depends on it, basically. And I believe Xhaka also came out and said similar things, that he's instilled a lot of confidence going into this game. So we are definitely treating it like it's make or break of the season, and it probably is as well. Because if we're looking at our league form, it's not been great. So this game is going to be very important, and that's why I think this is a game that for the neutrals as well might be good. But obviously for us, it's going to be like a heart-dropping and heart-wrenching game, because every little thing is going to be scrutinized. And I think anything that's said during any watch-alongs, you just can't take it with a grain of salt, because this is going to be those games that heightened emotions are going to be heightened. It's going to be like I know it sounds bad to say around 23 and we're 32, sorry, and we're making it a cup final, but it's that big. Benfica if you came into Europa League and said Arsenal and Benfica are playing in the final, you wouldn't sit there and be like, what? How the hell did that happen?
Exactly.
Because they are European giants, both of them. Like, they are come back with a reputation, and that's how we've got to treat it. And when you look at the first, both teams had a lot of respect for each other as well, to a level, and both teams shown that you can't just go for this game regardless of how bad each other have been. And I think similar approaches are going to be taken, because no one's out of it and no one's in it, is what I'm going to say as well, because it's 1-1. It's anyone's game.
Yeah, and what it really comes down to is that this match, I mean, even from a club perspective, is massive. I mean, we're in the last year of our Emirates sponsorship. We're in the last year of our Adidas sponsorship. So yeah, we're both. We've still got it. Who flies better?
Yeah, exactly.
That's another thing we have in common. Like, we've almost got the same shirt as well. Not only do we share the same problems with management and players and that, but look, just quickly before we move on, just my feeling on the first leg. Joe, as you were saying, players like Rafa Silva didn't start. Everton came on. I feel that the first leg was a real missed opportunity for Arsenal, not just in terms of the fact that we missed a lot of good chances. Like you said, look, you had a defender who made his debut, had to go off late in the game, suffering from cramp. We had a serious opportunity there to put this game, beyond the second leg. We could have been coming into this being able to rest a few key players, and maybe that would have gave us an opportunity to not put all of our eggs in the Europa basket. We could have had a view now on the Leicester game on Sunday. Now we have that problem where, we have to go out full strength. We need to win this game. Like, it's make or break. In terms of, what I would worry about from both sides, Benfica and Arsenal, it was a pretty poor performance from both sides in the first game. I don't think any side watching the pair of our teams play would be overly concerned about having to play either of us in the next round. When you look at some of the teams left in the competition, you've still got Man United, you've got Tottenham, you've got Ajax, you have a free-scoring Rangers team.
Did you say Tottenham?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out. They're
up 4-1, so they're going through to the next round. It's a given. AC Milan, Leicester, who we play on Sunday. We've Napoli, Roma, Villarreal. Like, that's the caliber of team. And the big talking point, surrounding Arteta and that is, our best entry into Europe for next season is going to come via the Europa League. Now, not for everybody. Some people think we might be able to pull it out of the bag in the league. Personally, I don't think our form is consistent enough to be able to guarantee that we're going to string enough wins together, we're going to accumulate enough points. I do believe that, Europa League could be our best entry into Europe next season. But when I look at that list, I have to admit, I'm not confident, and absolutely no disrespect to Benfica, but from what I saw from Benfica in the first leg and the fact that we could not put them away, it would definitely concern me, against a stronger side. If we do manage to go through, I would be extremely concerned, because, we're not that type of team. We don't seem to be showing up for these big, important games. Our Europa form, okay, look, we had a handy group. It was a given we were going to get through that group. We probably could have played our under-14s team and got through that group. Again, no disrespect to those sides, even though I've completely disrespected them there with that. Sorry about that. But look, it's only going to get tougher as the competition goes on. The chances of us actually winning the competition, I think this goes for both Benfica and Arsenal, I think it's pretty slim given what we've seen, unless we see something completely different on Thursday. I'm not overly confident, so it will leave us in a serious predicament now. I just want to quickly talk about Aubameyang. I know we've had a little bit on his form and that. My feeling on Aubameyang at the moment, with regards to, I'm going to even bring Martinelli into this because I did want to talk about the Martinelli situation. Martinelli, we know he's a young, talented player, full of energy. We did see him come on late against Benfica. I don't think he was given enough time to really, make anything happen. And Benfica, I think, were setting up to, cover and defend at that stage. So it was always going to be a little bit tougher. The game was going to be a lot less open than it was previous to him coming on. So it was never going to be easy for him. My feeling is, drop Aubameyang, play somebody like Martinelli on the left who has the energy, the drive, the motivation. He's been sat out for so long. Now, he's going to be chomping at the bit to get going. With Aubameyang, I think the problem you have with Aubameyang is a lot of people are saying, you can't really drop your captain. He has the captain's armband. How can you leave the captain out of the team? I think with Aubameyang's personal problems going on off the field, you can see his head's not there. His form is suffering. I think this is a perfect opportunity for Arteta, to put the arm around Aubameyang and say, you know what? You don't need this right now. You don't need this captain's armband. And it's nothing to do with you as a person. It's nothing to do with you as a captain. Like, do him a favour. Take him out of the limelight and say to him, right now, your head needs to be elsewhere. And that's, concentrate on your family life. We have players capable of stepping in if you give them the opportunity. We've got Pepe. We've got, if anything, we're covered on the wings. We have enough on the wings that you can afford to take Aubameyang out. And to be honest, look, right now, the way he's playing, he's absolutely no miss. You could line up with 10 players and just leave the wing free, and it's about the same as what you're getting out of Aubameyang anyway. So I think it's definitely an opportunity for a coach to say to the player, you don't need this extra pressure right now. You don't need the stick. We're going to sit you out for a while. Get your head sorted. Come back mentally prepared, and then we'll see how it goes. Who you give the armband to then, I'm not sure. That's another debate altogether. But with Martinelli and that, I'm hoping it's not a trust issue Arteta has. I'm hoping it's more of a concern about a reoccurrence of the injury he had. He's a young kid. He was out for a long time, with a pretty serious injury. He came back, and in a warm-up game, I think it was against Newcastle, he injured himself again. And I'm hoping this is just a case of we got a bit burnt with Thomas Partey, bringing him back a bit too soon. And look what's happened since. Kieran Tierney's probably another example. Maybe we need to give the guys, if they're injured, give them the extra bit of time. And instead of getting them back kind of in drips and drabs, a couple of minutes here and there, the odd performance here and there, just leave them out as long as they need to be out. Get them back 100% fit, ready to go. I'm hoping this is the case of Martinelli, that they're just being a little bit overcautious because, especially at his age, this is his development right now. It's essential that he continues to progress and develop, but you can't do that if you're sat on the sidelines, nursing an injury. If you have to go off and have another operation, that could be completely detrimental to a young guy's development, and he may never hit the heights that we all hope he gets to. So, yeah, I would love him to get an opportunity. I definitely would. If it is a fitness concern, I can completely get behind why we're being a bit cautious, especially given the player Martinelli is. He reminds me of kind of an Alexis Sanchez type of player. And we've seen what happened with Alexis Sanchez. Arsenal ran that man into the ground, and he was unbelievable for us. But we've seen now, later in his career, he went to Man United, he's at Inter Milan. He's not half the player he was. And it's got to be, players getting older, the injuries, they've all mounted up. We bled him dry. We got everything we could out of him. I don't want to see that happen to Martinelli. And as I said, he's that style of player. If he's 50% fit, he's still going to give you 100% on the pitch. That's going to lead to injuries, and you can't fault them for it. You absolutely can't. A young guy, again, they've no fear. They just jump in and they play, and I don't think they have that sort of in the back of your mind, okay, I better be a little bit cautious here or else I'm going to suffer an injury. I don't think career longevity is crossing your mind, which is grand, at that age. But I do think, a bit of man management with a guy like Martinelli, where he's going to be headstrong and say, no, I'm 100% ready to go. But I think, the coach needs to say, look, we're just going to be a little bit careful with you. But hopefully he is fit and ready to go, and we unleash him against Benfica, because I definitely think he can be a difference maker. Look, I think actually before we start wrapping up, we might as well talk about the penalty decision, the Emile Smith Rowe. I'm kind of going to stay out of this one a little bit, because even before we started the podcast here today, I seen a couple of replays, and to be honest, I don't know whether it's just the old age kicking in and my eyesight's not what it was a couple of years ago, but every angle I've seen, I can't fully make up my mind. I haven't seen a proper. I can't 100% say it wasn't. To me, it looked completely accidental. It looked like there was no intention. I could see his arm in the air, but he was looking away. Did either of you see a proper, clear replay of it?
I thought it was a penalty. I'm not going to lie. I can have a look at it again, but even when I seen it, at first I was like, I was just frustrated, and then when I seen the replays, I think arm raised, regardless of whether you're looking or not, that's an unnatural position where your hand was.
Yeah.
So I've got absolutely no arguments, and that's why I've not said it all game, because in the entire podcast, because at the end of the day, a penalty that is as day clear as penalties get. Because if you got your hands like up here or something, if you jump for it and it's like covered his face or something, then you can consider whether he was, but there's no excuses for your hand being that high. So not for me, no excuses. That's a penalty all day.
Yeah. I think just to touch on that real quick, Anthony, one thing that I always look to on those decisions that, right away when I saw it, I was like, oh, great, penalty. My first thought is it's a penalty. And then after seeing the replay, it wasn't as clear. But it was the general disposition of the Arsenal players. Like Smith Rowe accepted it the second it happened. You could see he hung his head when he came off the pitch as well. He knew what he did. And so for me, it was just right then and there. I just dropped it and said, they would be up in arms, and this would be reviewed a little bit longer if there was a shadow of a doubt. And I really don't think there was like so.
Yeah. And you know what, like Joe, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there. One of the reasons why, again, look, I haven't seen a clear and obvious replay. I can see definitely the position of the hand looked unnatural. So to me, first glance, it did look a penalty. But what you just said there about Smith Rowe just kind of accepted it, and that I think Smith Rowe, the type of player he is, he was actually sent off in a cup game against Newcastle, which again it was overturned because it was the wrong decision to send off.
That's the type of club Arsenal are, not just Smith Rowe. But
But you could see even Smith Rowe strikes me as the type of kid that even if he genuinely didn't do something, he's still just gonna go, I can't believe that's been given against me. There was no argument out of him when he got that red card, and then they showed the replay, and he walked off the pitch. There was absolutely no. He had a look of shock, where he was like, I can't believe I'm after getting sent off. And he walked off the pitch, and it was fine. It was just shock and disbelief. And then they reviewed it and it was overturned, and he was put back on. And then he went on to score the match-winning goal, which was even better again. But I do think he's that type of kid. Like, whether it's intentional or not, I don't think you're going to get any dissent or argument out of him. I think he seems to be, what I find refreshing about him is he has that respect that a lot of players don't have. He has respect for the referee's decision and the call that's made, whether right or wrong. Maybe at times, you could say he might develop and maybe he should be arguing his case a little bit more. But it is refreshing to see. I do like his personality and his attitude. And then quickly, just the Arsenal goal, ball in from Cedric. Bukayo Saka, pretty easy tap in for him. One of the easiest goals he'll probably score this season. That went to VAR. Like, I couldn't believe that went to VAR. And I'll be honest, when it happened in real time, and this happens to me all the time when I'm watching a game, there wasn't a lot happening at the time. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna nip to the bathroom real quick. I'll come back. I'm sure I won't have missed anything. And of course, I had the TV turned up loud, and I could hear cheering, and I was going because I had the fake sounds on. And I'm thinking to myself, every single time I got to the bathroom, something happened. So I might just sit.
Andy, could you not have gone to the bathroom 3 times after that as well? Just so. Yeah.
But you know what? I'm thinking of hooking the TV up into my bathroom, or maybe I'll stay in the bathroom, and we might have an absolute cracker of a game, maybe 5-4 or something. Well, yeah. Sul's initial thoughts on that. Now, look, I was thinking there and then. I came back, and it was in the middle of the replays, and I was saying, "How have they called this?" And I was like, "Is VAR going to do us here again?"
I mean, before that goal, my heart was absolutely like, I was deflated because I was like, oh my God, we're actually going to go into the second leg again with a loss.
Yeah.
And then that happened. I'm not going to lie, I screamed. I was like, you know, like a kid in a candy shop, just absolutely buzzing. And then they said VAR, and I was like, what the hell was wrong with that? And I don't know, because obviously, as an Arsenal, maybe Benfica, Joe might be able to say something different, but me as a fan, maybe I am in the emotion and I'm like, yes, finally we've flipping got a goal back. And I might have not seen a blatant offside, for example. But even looking at the replays, I was like, what the hell are they viewing? It's like and this is the problem, like the referees want to do anything they can against Arsenal, like absolutely anything. Like we don't get things reviewed, but when it's for us, it'll be reviewed so many times. Like so many times to the point where they'll try and find like something that happened in the first half to try and disallow this goal. Like it gets to a point where you do get annoyed because it's like you're there just to make the clear and obvious mistakes, and there was nothing clear and obvious to look at. So it did annoy me, but we got the goal, so I'm not going to cry and complain about it too much because finally they've done their job right.
Yeah, and you know what? We spoke about this in the first preview that we said, well, look, Arsenal have a break from the Premier League VAR and the Premier League referees. And when I seen this, I was thinking, even in Europe, really? Even in Europe?
I don't know who we pissed off now.
Oh, lads, but yeah, look, no, this has been great, and I think we pretty much covered all bases. So look, I'm not gonna delay too much longer. So we'll just get straight in and we'll give prediction. I'm not gonna bother going into who you think the lineups are gonna be, because I think at this stage, like as we've said, Arsenal rested players against City. We've players coming back. It's kind of too hard to predict, and I think the same, Joe, probably goes for Benfica. You had players in, out. There's still players to come in, and I think based off of the first performance, I'm sure both managers, Arteta and JJ, are probably saying, "No, you know what? I need to counter this with something else." And it's going to be a really hard one to call the lineup. So I'm just going to go straight in. And Joe, I'll start with yourself. A score prediction.
Yeah, it really is. It's tough for me because I've gone back and forth about this, and it really depends on the which Benfica we see. If it's this Benfica that says this is a final, then I'm pretty confident in coming out and saying that I think we'll come out top 2-1. Will that happen? We'll see. I do think that we concede just because I think we'll not to get into the lineups, but I do think we'll play a similar formation as last time, and nothing's going to change at the back. So we're left a little bit vulnerable there. Just with Saka's speed and with Alba's speed, and just in general, any of your attackers really are faster than Otamendi and Bertoghen for sure, and then Verissimo with the fatigue that he's been handling. It's a similar situation. So I do think you put one away, meaning that we have to get that that second goal. But I think that it ends up being a 2-1 Benfica victory. I do think that Pizzi, one way or another, the guy, he frustrates me like hell, but I think he does put one in, be it a penalty or not. And then I think Darwin finally gets his form back and puts one in as well. Now for Benfica, will they have the best game? I'm not sure. But I do think we'll definitely see a lot more offensive moves from them. I just can't see JJ sitting back in a match like this, be it in the first or the second half. He might, make halftime adjustments, but I think Rafa Silva being on from the get-go will really change things if that's what he decides to do.
Yeah, brilliant. Sulz, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna put it on the line. Come on. And I think, it's going to be one of those things where I think that performance against City and the performance against Benfica, I hope it's lit an absolute fire in his belly to say, you know what, enough's enough. I might have been bad, but now I'm going to give the fans what they wanted, why he signed that contract, why we put this trust in him. And I think this is going to be the game where even I think in the back of his head, he's knowing as well that because he came out immediately and apologized, after the games as well for his performance. And I think he's realizing that, there's a lot riding on this in terms of our future as Arsenal Football Club. Yeah. And I know I've said that we still need to back Arteta, but a lot does ride on Arsenal's future and who we can bring in. Having no European football, Europa League is the bare minimum you need to get top level players. We managed to get Partey because we still managed to get European football. But having none of that, it makes the job a billion times harder. You need to, and it makes the project a lot harder to believe in, even for a player, because they're going to be like, especially with people that were linked to like an Awar, for example, who are going to be guaranteed European clubs coming in for them. So. And I think Arteta knows how important it is, and I think the club know how important it is. And I think what Arteta, the one thing I know about Arteta, looking at the documentary and All or Nothing on City, he's going to get those players riled up because he's been with some of the most inspirational leaders in terms of company. Even when you look at Pep when he loses it, when you look at Fernandinho, when you look at some of these captains that he's been in and amongst the locker rooms with. And he's been managed under, because he's a Spanish national. Even the Spanish team have some of the most brilliant, inspirational leaders who know how to switch a flip in your head from being like, yes, we might have been disappointing, but we can go in and do something. And that's why I have the belief, because he's been in those situations in his career. And that's why I think, we will come out and we will be pumped. If not, just hire me for that one day. I'll get these players riled up. I will get these players to play it's life or death for them. And I think it's going to be and I think I'm going to echo what Joe said. It's going to be a 2-1 either way, I think. Whether it's because I don't see either one of us not scoring, even though I think we've probably got more of, we can say more likely we're going to score because we've done it in open play. And that's not disrespecting penalties, but other than that penalty, you could possibly say we kept him out. And but on the flip side, this is make or break for both teams, and this is going to be because yes, I'm taking it a game at a time. So, and I'm saying this is one of the most important games in our entire season. This is a defining moment, whether we're going to be champions mentalities or whether we're going to have mentality of losers, or because. We've got to fight like our lives depend on it. And I know it sounds shocking to say around a 32 game is this important for a Benfica and Arsenal. If you asked me 5 years ago, I'd be laughing at you. But that's the reality, because they are two big teams who are not in the competition they should be in. And that's the reality of the situation. And yeah, I'm obviously going to say Arsenal, but if Benfica go through, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, we lost to a shit side or something, and we didn't expect that to happen. But I'm going to back the boys and I'm going to believe in them. And I think Aubameyang's going to really put his stamp on this team, and he's going to really come in. And I hope he does, because otherwise, I'm just going to be so down about it. But I think this game's got everything written about it being a 2-1.
2-1, yeah. Look, I hope you're right. And I hope.
Oh, Anthony, just go in the bathroom a few times for us.
Yeah.
We're like a 5-1.
I'll be doing a live podcast from the bathroom, for the next one. Look, I'll be honest, Sulz, I know you're backing Aubameyang, and I know you want to go back to the business. I would like to see Aubameyang actually sit this one out. I'd like to see Lacazette play up top, and I'd like somebody else. I just don't know if mentally he's ready for this. He hasn't been there all season, and this is an important game, and I just don't know. Aubameyang, yeah, he shows up, like the FA Cup final and that, but that was a different Aubameyang last season to this season, I just don't know if we can depend on him to show up in a game right now at this very moment where we need something from him. I would like to see Lacazette, definitely up top anyway. I'd like to see Lacazette. But look, that's... Generally, Arteta doesn't like to do what I would like him to do, so I'm fully expecting Aubameyang to play some part. Look, I think this game, it definitely is going to be about who shows up on the day. Arsenal are notoriously slow starters. If we can come out of the blocks like we did against Leeds, there's absolutely no reason why we can't score a couple of goals. The problem is we tend not to get those kind of performances very, very often. And I think, again, Leeds are just completely gung-ho. You know what way they're going to set up. It's all out attack. So I don't think Benfica are going to do that. You know, they're going to be a bit more balanced. So it's going to be a lot harder to break them down. But I am going to back Arsenal. I am. I'm actually going to say 2-0 Arsenal. I'm putting it out there. As you said, Sulz, the goal came from a penalty for Benfica. And that's not to say Benfica weren't dangerous. I just think, you know, if we come out with the right attitude, with our heads screwed on, I think we have enough about us that we can get out of the game. We missed a lot of opportunities against Benfica in the first leg, but I'm at least encouraged by the fact that we did create opportunities. You know, Aubameyang had an absolute nightmare, but at least we provided him enough opportunities to have a nightmare, if that makes any sense. You know, I'd be more concerned. Yeah, he missed, you know, 3 or so very, very good opportunities, but I'd be more concerned if we at least weren't able to create the chances for him to miss. So, you know, if we put someone else in there, maybe Lacazette, and can, you know, give him the same opportunities, maybe he might put them away. But look, I'm looking forward to the game. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, because I was very much looking forward to the last game as well, and didn't quite live up to the hype and expectation. But it's hard not to, especially, you know, when you sit here with a panel and you talk about it and you hear all sides, all views. It's hard not to get excited. It definitely adds to it. But look, either way, Joe, like you've been absolutely brilliant. It's been great having you on, getting your point of view, and this is why I love having, you know, the rival fans, the fans of the opposition, because it's a whole different insight, whole different perspective. And it's been really interesting, you know, finding out how similar Arsenal and Benfica actually are. You know, Sulz, we look at Arsenal because obviously, you know, we're involved in the Arsenal world, and obviously we're dissecting every single thing Arsenal do. And at times you do think, even if it's something like VAR, like, okay, VAR is only against Arsenal, referees only against Arsenal, you know, these problems only happen to Arsenal. This is why it's so important to speak to fans from other clubs, because we all think that about our club. We think we're the only team that suffers this. We're the only team feeling this and going through these problems. It's just not true. You know, it's just, we're more aware because we follow our clubs more closely. So we feel like it's us and us only. But Joe, look, again, it was absolutely brilliant having you here. So let the people know where they can look out for your content. And I strongly encourage Arsenal fans, definitely read Joe's review of the first game. Keep up to date as well. Like, look at the content Joe's putting out there. I'll give you a complete understanding and perspective from a Benfica side, which is important for Arsenal fans going into this. So Joe, where can we find you?
Yeah, so I have my Twitter username right here at Benfiquista You can also find me at www.benfiquista Americano. It's the same as my same spelling as that's in the chat. And then also, as Anthony said, I put out a review after every match. So you can check out the first leg match, which is also one of my pinned tweets. And I'll have a review of tomorrow's match Friday morning posted as well. So feel free to check that out. I like to give myself, a couple hours to cool down after the match, no gut reactions. But if you take a look at the Farense summary as well, you'll get a good idea of what you're up against. And you'll understand why Anthony's 2-0 prediction isn't that crazy.
Yeah, brilliant. And look, I do have a link in the description down below this video. I do have details for both of the guys, so where you can check them out. But Sulz, go on, give yourself a shout out there. Your analysis today, man. My laptop, there was smoke coming out of it at one point there with the flames you were spitting.
No, thank you. Yeah, as Anthony just said, I like to look at games more in depth, and I kind of try to obviously take the emotion side out of it. That's why you'll always see a match review probably the next day rather than even a couple of hours after. That's when I'm doing my prep a couple of hours after, just so I can get the emotions and I can I can, because if I did that City review straight away, I don't think everyone would be like, where did this sauce come from? And that's why I don't do them straight away. But where you can find me is Gooner Sulz and Leicester Bay Football. I'm probably one of the more, what I've been told anyway, I'm a positive Gooner, and I'm always trying to spread positivity across them, all platforms. And I'm trying to just give people hope that, yeah, look, it's not all doom and gloom. This is the storm before the calm, not the calm before the storm, because things can only look up, and we are going to get back to where we need to be, given time and given the backing. And I've got so many podcasts lined up, and obviously I am going to try and get Anthony on for a show that I've got coming up, but it's just because of uni and stuff, things are a little bit slow. But hopefully I am going to speak to him about some of the future developments I've got on the channel coming up. So yeah, I hope you guys go and subscribe, and there's a lot coming and a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, there is a link to both of the guys down below in the description. So definitely do check out the content for both lads. The lads, been absolutely brilliant. Really, really do appreciate the time, as always, and the support. And from everybody in the chats, everybody with the comments, thanks so much. Everyone who continues to subscribe, like the video. Yeah, thanks so much. And we look forward to the game. And hey, look, this could be a nice excuse to we bring the boys back on to talk about what we saw, because you know how I like to bring people back in. So yeah, look, enjoy the game, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, and come on, you Gunners.